I'm Richard, and this is If You Only Knew. Today's episode is titled Another Event Exposed and What Comes Next. First off, I want to say thank you for all the comments and feedback. Today we're going to try something new. Apparently, the song I'd used previously for background music had too much bass that was competing with my vocals, so this will be the first episode where you hear my voice only. Please let me know what you think in the comments, and while you're at it, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you have not already. We have a lot to discuss, so let's jump into the headlines. How perfectly did it line up that on June 2nd, the same date on which there was a social media blackout, was the same date in which Hillary Clinton, along with her 6 lawyers, made a court appearance in order to appeal a motion to having to testify in front of a grand jury on September 9th. Plea failed, but note this mainstream article, it doesn't even mention that on the cover. In fact, it does not read that the investigation is continuing and active. We see articles post misleading information often, but this is a perfect example, actually, of deceptive practices of the mainstream media. The next day, on June 3rd, Rod Rosenstein gave testimony. Again, all of while the media is focused entirely on the protests. Turns out the testimony from the Senate Jury Committee does not match up with the House investigation, which implicates that someone is lying. Either he or McCabe. McCabe, by the way, who's now at CNN along with Lisa Page and John Brennan. And speaking of McCabe and the FBI, it's interesting timing now that the FBI is being investigated, that they are trying to deny Antifa's involvement in the riots. And here they are taking a knee, possibly, I guess, to gain public support with the left. Following day on June 4th, we had Lindsey Graham call for around 30-something subpoenas to question individuals involved with the FISA warrants after Rod Rosenstein admitted he would have never signed had he knew, 17 times, by the way. Some of the names include James Baker, John Brennan, Sidney Blumenthal, James Coney, Lisa Page, Bill Priestrep, Peter Strzok, and more. Now, who do you think all these people are going to point to? When does a bird sing? They're going to say that these were orders from the top. This is important because this is how the people awaken to see who these people really are. This is exposing the deep state and Obama. Why would the president tweet #Obamagate unless he knew that this was a slam dunk and that they had all the evidence they need to implicate Obama of treason and sedition? There's supposed to be something like 400 counts, but the public has yet to see this for themselves. Now, given how the overwhelming public outcry in response to the death of George Flynn, imagine what would have happened had an arrest been made for someone like Obama. Based on mainstream media coverage, no one's going to believe that a Manchurian candidate infiltrated the White House. You have to show them. Take a look at this post. It has to happen this way. If we just arrest Obama without waking up his supporters first, especially his Black American supporters, if you think the protest with George got carried away over George Floyd, try arresting Obama and watch what happens. Now, speaking of Obama, we saw that on Twitter, the post is still up from the Obama Foundation with the picture of George Floyd on the 17th, 10 days before his murder on the 27th. We see the validator to know that the code is real, but we also know that the mainstream media will not cover this. Why? Because they ordered not to. Just like you see all the press briefings, the media are given a list of questions and told not to go off script. We've known this since Kayleigh started redirecting questions back to the press to draw public attention to subjects they would not investigate. On the subject of Floyd, if you have not listened to Candace Owens, by the way, in her account of Floyd's past, which includes holding a loaded gun to a pregnant woman during a robbery in which Floyd was participating, there's more to the story, but I can't possibly do it justice the way Candace Owens does. Please listen to the original. Check out this passage and this overt virtue signaling from the New York Times. So stop sending love. Stop sending positive vibes. Stop sending your thoughts. Here are 3 suggestions on immediately impactful things to offer instead. I'm going to skip money and go to text to your relatives and loved ones, telling them that you will not be visiting them or answering phone calls until they take significant action supporting Black lives either through protest or financial contributions. This series of photographs surfaced following the resignation of an entire police department after a video leaked of an elderly man being pushed onto the pavement. These images, however, as you can see, which also surfaced, reveal a body harness and theatrical blood to squirt. Another non noticed that Floyd's second grade teacher looked familiar. In fact, we know that paid actors are involved, and that nuns have posted and also the intriguing help wanted ads recruiting people for some of these positions. Here's a post also from Donald J. Jr. implying that Barr has some dirt on Soros and should release it. Here's, by the way, an Antifa member also holding a UN flag, which many believe Soros has great influence. On a Soros-related note, here's a post from Jordan Sather. The engineered COVID crisis ended up backfiring and exposing Bill Gates and Big Pharma. The engineered race riots are backfiring and exposing George Soros and Antifa. Go ahead and try something else, Deep State. An army of digital soldiers is ready to pick it apart, rolling on the floor, laughing. We will win. I would also like to add this engineered race riot has also exposed corrupt governors and mayors. Look at this meme targeting de Blasio. His popular now is an all-time low. It's also important to highlight that while this is all going on, the vast majority of Americans disapprove of the dismantling of the police departments. Here's a post from James Woods on de Blasio. Idiot de Blasio is back on the COVID bandwagon now that the riots are petering out. Suddenly, social distancing is back in fashion. Meanwhile, thousands were forbid to have funerals for their grandparents must endure the hypocrisy with gritted teeth and broken hearts. It's hard to ignore the sudden change of narrative. You know what's going on. But to the average person, this is not going to make sense. Here's one more post from James Wood, just because he nails it so perfectly. Here's a solid plan: defund the police, release criminals from jails, refuse to cooperate with federal law enforcement, open the borders, get rid of bail, set a limit at which theft is allowed with no arrests, and stir up as much chaos as possible. Here's another one from Rudy Giuliani. Now, with 7 days of mob rules from cities with mostly Democrat mayors, it's obvious these mayors are incapable of protecting their citizens. They enable the rioters by banning the police precincts from burning, and ordering police to stand down and be assaulted without arrest. While the National Guard was ordered to leave D.C. in 10 states, soldiers were sworn in as U.S. Marshals. Check this out. Just moments ago here in D.C., Florida National Guard soldiers from the 53 Infantry Brigade Combat Team swear in as temporary U.S. Marshals in support of citizens at the nation's capital. You know who doesn't need your permission or consent to police your city? Federal agents. Long story short, the patriots are in control. Now remember that regardless of what happens in these cities, the rest of the country will watch these states turn into chaos, and once that happens, the Fed can intervene if the state fails to protect its own citizens. This is all about control. This wasn't about a virus. We know this isn't about a manufactured race riot created to divide us. We know this is about the election, and the next 5 months are going to be intense. Take a look at these posts from Inevitability. Q says that only when on the precipice of destruction will people change. That means the stories and the action is only going to intensify until we reach the point of destruction. And only then will the people wake up. What will that take? I guess we're about to find out. Be grateful that you got to be awake and know a little bit of what to expect, because there are a lot of people who are about to have their entire world rocked to the very core. And we will be there to support them as they desperately need it. There's a reason we needed millions of us to be awake before this can happen. There are going to be a lot of people in need. But Q says we will boomerang. If we go as low as we're about to go, we're going to skyrocket the other direction just as far, if not further. How do I know? Because we were told 2.5 years in advance of what is about to go down. Embrace the pain. This pain will be part of our prize. The more this hurts, the greater the feeling of victory. Breathe it in. You're witnessing history being made, and your name is being etched in this story. What do you want to tell your grandkids that you did to save humanity? First we MAGA, then we mega. There's a reason you're awake right now. You are more powerful than you can imagine. Time to buckle up and find out what you're made of. And you will. You will find out that you're made of some pretty incredible stuff. Now, we know that this event failed. Another one will begin. Question is, what is next? We know they use the same plans over and over again. Which one will they recycle next? ISIS again? Maybe. The environment again? Hopefully not, but maybe. A war of the sexes? Well, given that Tara Reid has exposed the Me Too movement as being highly selective, that probably won't come up at all. What about another war? China? Well, we know that Trump doesn't want war. We know that Trump uses sanctions, and right now China's weaker than ever while asking to renegotiate the trade deal, which Trump has declined. They won't start a war to get better terms. What about an EMP? Well, Trump signed an act to reinforce the grid last year. What about more fires in California? Maybe. We have been hearing a lot of asteroid headlines as of lately. That does seem odd, and we're overdue for some type of weather event that the deep state could use as a distraction. What about more school shootings? Well, the point of those events was to create anti-gun laws to disarm the average American, but no one's going to want this as gun sales have skyrocketed, so this scenario is very unlikely. Another possibility could be that they try something new. For this first time, we saw that the event was called off from within. The protesters in D.C. who seemed determined to storm the White House did not. It was like they were bored of the mission, realizing that the public was watching and expecting this. This was uncharacteristic because normally they follow the script. Let's look back at some history at Project Paperclip's Nazi scientist Werner von Braun. He predicted that we'd one day find a reason to start a war in space. Realize that the deep state does include Hollywood and the top special effects wizards. Dr. Michael Salla published this article on a technology that projects plasma to evade heat-seeking missiles, which can be used to put on a show. Interesting. Could the media fabricate a story on a threat from space? Maybe, but I don't think this will be the next move. Whatever the event will be, it will start soon. But what do you think the event will be? I want to hear from you. Please let me know in your comments. If you like, by the way, this episode, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and if you haven't already, please share. My name is Richard, and this is If You Only Knew.